Courtney. Welcome to Thursday Thrive. This is a series featuring people who have overcome adversity. If you want to know more about what it means to thrive or to see more stories, then check us out at edmondco.co. I hope you enjoy this story.
I'm Paula, and this is my story. My husband and I met through a passion of aviation. So I was a pilot already, and he had been a lot longer, but when I moved to Nashville, that's how we met. Was I needed somebody to fly with and show me the area, and yeah, that just kind of took off from there. Literally. This year we are actually starting in air racing, which is something that I've loved for years, and I actually got him into it, and it was our goal that we would someday get involved in that, and so we're starting it this year. And then my 9-year-old son also has an affinity for racing, but his is cars. So he is a little junior NASCAR driver, essentially. But he's our one little guy, and it's a lot of fun with both of them being in racing. And I'm not a highly competitive person, but I love the environment of being in a competitive environment and supporting them in that. In November of 2013, I went for my usual routine exam, and they did find a lump, and we were not concerned. We had benign tumors in my family before. That was the history, and none of us thought anything of it. And so it was quite a shock to get a cancer diagnosis out of it. It really was. It was sort of a little bit of a gut punch, like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to happen. I've done everything right. And so it really kind of took me by surprise. But at the same time, I had a strange sense of purpose to it, almost immediately. I think that first night was a little bit of boo-hooing, and a lot of the questions that typically keep you up at night, all the what ifs started coming into mind, and I went and had a drink with a friend, and she told me about her story with a little bit different scenario, but she was very encouraging in the fact that I knew immediately I didn't want to take the normal path, and she had not taken the normal path with her particular condition, and so she was very encouraging to me to follow my gut in everything. I was scheduled to have an appointment to follow up on everything the following week with my doctor to figure out, do a little bit more testing, figure out exactly how advanced it was, what the conditions were surrounding the tumor, and what all was going to be recommended. But I had had an experience with Healing Touch, a practice called Healing Touch, in the past, and I knew immediately that that was something I wanted to do. And Healing Touch, very briefly, it's a facilitation of energy by a practitioner that helps connect the mind and the body and the spirit together, and a lot of things can happen with it. You can have actual physical improvements or changes, or you can have emotional or spiritual, or in some cases, some people are just relaxed, and it's like having a great massage. But I knew I needed to do that and start figuring out what this process was going to entail. Proceeded throughout the week, going to do the doctors and the tests and getting all the feedback and all the recommendations. And my husband and I talked a lot about it, and I said, for some strange reason, I feel like I'm supposed to do the surgery. That kind of goes against what I always said I would do, because I always thought I would do everything completely naturally, but for some reason I feel like I'm supposed to do this. And of course he was all in with that, because being the husband and not really experiencing everything I had experienced with a calling, to him it was much safer to do that route. So he was much more happy for me to make that decision. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do the surgery, and if I'm going to do one side, I'm going to do them both. A little bit of vanity there, but I'll take ownership of that in a heartbeat. December 16th of 2013, I went in and had the surgery, and it was very long. Thankfully, I was asleep for the whole thing. Coming out of it was very painful. I have a fairly high pain tolerance, but that is some pain that I've never felt before. Even going through childbirth and emergency cesarean with my son, it did not compare to this. I'd never had morphine before, and I could not hit that morphine drip enough times. It hurt. It really hurt. It was just something I did not expect. And then having that realization of, I've just had a double amputation. Like, this is kind of crazy. This is a little weird. It was just very surreal. Follow up a week later with my doctor, and one of the things that she noted, which was pretty spectacular, was that when they went in to pull out the tumor, they had found that it had already broken apart and was starting to die off. So that was pretty exciting, because in her medical mind, it was, well, you know, it could be a lot of different things. Maybe it was trying to spread, it might have been trying to grow, we don't know. Maybe it was trying to die off, we don't really know. But I knew at that moment, it was like, nope, I had God's hand on me in that healing touch session, and I followed his guidance and the tools that were given to me by the people that I was already in connection with for the right support, the right nutritional direction, the right homeopathy. You know, it was all coming together and it was working, and that was proof. You know, I didn't need all of these, well, it could be this or that. That was proof, and I knew it right there. I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. Now I know I had to have the surgery. I needed to know that. I needed to see that. I needed that proof. My doctor needed to know this. About 3 weeks after, they had done some more tests, which is pretty standard. And it came back that it was much more, not that it was more advanced, but the chemistry, so to speak, of the tumor and the cancer cells led them to believe that I have a pretty high risk of it returning. And so with that, of course, chemo treatments are recommended, and you know, immediate get on the tamoxifen and any other chemo support that is out there for the type of cancer that I had. And that day that she called me, my oncologist called me, I woke up with strep that morning, and which is not uncommon to have something like that come about after a major surgery. But for me, I've had strep a lot in my life, and the emotional side of having strep is usually when you can't say what you want to say. And I'm on the phone with her, and all I wanted to do is scream at her, like, I am not listening to you. This is not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do this. I already know I'm not going to do this. And I mean, it was the Holy Spirit like saying, no, you will not do this. And you have to face this dragon lady and tell her that. And she was kind of a dragon lady about it. She really was. I mean, it was intimidating, some of the things that she was telling me on the phone. And then when I went to see her too, about not doing the treatments. And so it all came to a head in one day, and I went into that dark hole, that rabbit hole that you hear of a lot of patients with a chronic disease or a potentially terminal disease. They go down a rabbit hole, and it's very dark. And for the first time in my life, I had a taste of what clinical depression felt like, and it was very scary to me. And I just thought, oh, why am I now going through this? I don't get this. And I've had this clear path, I've had this peace, I've felt comfortable, I've had faith throughout all of this, and why now? And I still don't know the answer to that, except for the fact that I have compassion for that, for anybody who goes through that. And it only lasted about a week for me. And to hear people who live like that for months and years, I mean, I don't know how they do it. I really don't, because it was just I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. It was a miserable week. But on the third day, the strep symptoms started to go away. And I kind of perked up a little bit, and I was like, okay, like this isn't quite so bad. Still don't want to see anybody, still don't want to talk to anybody, but I'm not in a point where I feel like I can't come out of it. And then on the 7th day, it was gone. Everything was gone. I woke up feeling great again. The darkness was just gone. And I was really back to where I was the day before I got the call and the day before the strep came on, which actually had been a great day. So I was feeling good again. I was feeling just restored, and I was feeling determined, and maybe stubbornness, but it was this determination of, not only do I want to prove these doctors wrong, but I want to show what God can do. I started letting everybody know that, hey, this is my decision. I'm not doing chemo. So I'm going to seek out natural elements and remedies and go from a holistic perspective and look at the mind, the body, and the spirit and everything that's involved with breast cancer to see, what do I need to do? And within a couple of days, I had just an outpouring of information from people that either had gone down that road, had friends or family that had gone down that road to do a different direction and take different paths. And I was given a book by one girlfriend, and it was a book called Cancer Killers. And that, in conjunction with what I was already learning from the practitioner that I was working with, just really unfolded the direction and the path and all the different areas I needed to look at and assess and analyze it and work to get healthy in. And it started a domino effect. And I read every book I can get my hands on, and there's so many great books out there that have inspiring stories and a lot of clinical and psychological, emotional, spiritual information that anytime I came across something, I was finding something that related to me. There was something in there that was like, oh yeah, I've been there. Okay, I need to deal with that. Okay, I need to take this out of my diet. Oh, I need to change those cleaning products. I mean, there was something in every aspect that I knew could be done better or be taken to another level. Sugar is in fact a feeder of cancer, and unfortunately so many people aren't aware of that. So eliminating sugar, number one, to help starve the cancer was the first big thing. And I was not a big sugar eater, but when you start reading labels, you realize how much sugar is in everything. And even down, when you're in this position, if you have cancer, you want to eliminate even most natural sugars for a while until it's resolved. Completely in line, again, with what God created versus what man created. And the process allowed me to uncover why I developed cancer, which for any person dealing with it, doesn't matter what kind of cancer you have, you can figure out why. And there's process that you can go through. And if you can figure it out, it's a very personal journey, but there's people out there that can walk through it with you. If you can figure out these areas of why your body developed cancer, then that's what cures it. I would say if you're dealing with it, have a loved one who's dealing with it, or you're wanting to prevent it, there's a lot of tools out there right now that are getting more readily available. And first of all, I just encourage everybody to dive into the research. Go beyond what pops up on Google. Go beyond the materials that your doctor gives you. Your doctor's going to give you information that is provided by organizations that are funded by pharmaceuticals. I mean, it does come to that. And so it's got to make you question what else is out there. They're not going to give you the guide to nutrition. Even though they should, they won't. I really don't think I would change anything that I did. I'd like to say that I might have been a little bit stronger at certain points, but again, if I was, I don't think I would have been able to experience the vulnerability in order to relate to some people and in order to be able to share that with people. Yeah, I would say the biggest blessing was having an experience of biblical proportions, essentially, that we read about, we hear about, and we think that happens somewhere else. That happens in another time. That will happen to somebody else. And experiencing God through touch, through sense, through sight, through feel, through heat, is a pretty spectacular thing to experience, because we don't open ourselves up to that in today's world. We're too skeptical. We say we believe in miracles, or we say we believe that God has all this power, and yet when it comes to the everyday stuff, we don't look for it. We don't ask for it. We don't think we're worthy of it. And I think we are missing out tremendously. And I think as believers in our country especially, we're so worried about being judged or called out by the non-believers that we don't want to talk about this kind of stuff when it does happen. But it does, and it's pretty spectacular. And it was weird for me even experiencing it when I did, to come out of it and it's like, did that really just happen? Did that really happen to me? And again, going back to the surgery, that's why I think God let me have the surgery, because it was like, I will show you what I did. I'm going to prove it to you, because I know you're not believing me, even though you want to. So yeah, having that experience and that understanding that I'm not too small for God to touch. And if he's willing to touch me, he's going to touch anybody who's open to it.